It looks like a standard Friday night setup: a home-cooked meal, some painting, and a cold glass of pink lemonade. But that glass concealed a massive, lethal dose of dissolved cocaine. The woman drinking it was 25-year-old Jade Benning, who was 5 months pregnant. The man who poured it was her boyfriend, Blaise Taylor, a former NFL scout who had spent months telling those close to him that he had no intention of becoming a father. On the evening of February 25, 2023, Jade invited Blaise over to her apartment to paint canvases. For over 2 hours, the night appeared normal. They posed for photos and ate dinner. But shortly after 9 p.m., Jade's health began a sudden, violent decline. As she began to lose motor control, Jade managed to call her best friend, Najiyah Jackson. Over the phone, Najiyah heard Jade struggle to breathe while explicitly asking Blaise what he had put in her drink. She told him, "Blaise, you're scaring me." He never answered the question. That frantic 6-minute call ended just before Blaise dialed 911 himself. But where Jade sounded terrified, Blaise was eerily composed. He told the dispatcher that Jade was simply not feeling good while they were making cookies. Despite hearing her accusations just minutes earlier, he claimed he didn't know what was wrong and suggested she was having a mild allergic reaction to the food. By the time paramedics reached the apartment, they found Jade pulseless and clinically dead. She was lying face down on her bed next to a pool of pink vomit. Throughout the emergency response, Blaise remained steady. He prioritized his narrative of a food allergy, ensuring his version of the story reached the authorities before anyone else could speak. Doctors managed to restart Jade's heart, but her brain had been deprived of oxygen for too long. She died 9 days later on her 25th birthday. Her unborn daughter, Ivy, was already gone. To determine the cause of death, the medical examiner analyzed the blood sample taken the moment Jade arrived at the hospital. The results moved the case into the realm of a medical anomaly. This chart shows the scale of the toxicity. A typical lethal overdose usually registers under 1,000 nanograms per milliliter. Jade's blood contained 7,878. The medical examiner testified that this was the highest level her office had ever measured, a number far beyond any recreational use. Toxicologists used the metabolic breakdown to establish a timeline. Cocaine in the blood is attacked by enzymes and converted into a metabolite called benzoyl edgonine. The ratio of the parent drug found in Jade's system proved she had ingested a massive, concentrated dose right at the start of her medical episode. The markers also identified the method of ingestion. The chemical profile didn't match someone who had snorted or injected the drug. It pointed to a liquid that had been swallowed and absorbed through the stomach, exactly like the pink lemonade Jade was drinking. This concentration and method of ingestion scientifically ruled out a recreational accident. The drug hadn't been used for a high, it had been administered as a weapon. While the forensics were building a case, the physical evidence at the apartment was in jeopardy. Jade's family grew increasingly frustrated and desperate by what they saw as a painfully slow and inadequate police response. Fearing the scene would be lost, Jade's loved ones made the risky decision to enter the unsecured apartment themselves to protect whatever evidence remained. They focused on the bed. One of Jade's friends used gloves to carefully bag the comforter, which was still heavily stained with the pink vomit paramedics had found her in. When that comforter reached a lab, tests confirmed the pink stains were saturated with cocaine. It provided the direct physical link between the drink in the apartment and the toxins in her blood. Though the family's intervention technically compromised the official crime scene, their actions secured the only physical proof connecting Blaise's poisoned drink to the murder. At trial, the defense argued that Jade had willingly taken the drugs herself, but the prosecution countered by presenting a witness who provided context for Blaise's past behavior. They called Apple Denny to the stand, a former girlfriend whose testimony detailed an event from 2017 that mirrored the night of Jade's collapse. Apple testified that years earlier, another woman had gotten pregnant with Blaise's child. When she refused to have an abortion, Blaise asked Apple to help him secretly drug the woman's drink to force a miscarriage. This chart shows the biological target of his plan. Cocaine is a powerful vasoconstrictor. In high doses, it can cause the placenta to detach from the uterine wall, cutting off the baby's oxygen supply. Blaise wasn't just using a drug, he was using a specific chemical mechanism to terminate a pregnancy against the mother's will. but the dosage he gave Jade was so extreme that it bypassed a localized detachment. Her entire system failed under the toxicity before a placental abruption could even occur. Blaise arrived at that apartment in 2023 with a premeditated plan, using a rehearsed strategy to terminate his pregnancy and erase his responsibilities. The jury took only 2 hours to reach a decision. They convicted Blaise Taylor of 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Jade and her unborn daughter. A plot designed to look like a medical emergency was ultimately undone by a victim's final phone call and the relentless pursuit of physical truth by those who loved her. What do you think about the family's choice to take evidence from the scene before the police arrived? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for our next deep dive into the criminal mind.